Hi guys, welcome back to the 401 Files. My name is Ben. If you are new here to the channel, I'm assuming that you are interested in these thought-provoking topics, such as things like Bigfoot, the UK wildman, extraterrestrials and UFOs. Well, if that is the case, then you're in luck, because I get out to some of these hotspots here in the UK and I spend multiple days, sometimes camping solo, trying to investigate and get to the bottom of some of these reports that are coming forward. I'm heading back to a bushcraft base that I've been building up now for the last few weeks, and if you are interested in seeing the progression of that, then just check back on some of my previous videos and you can watch that from start to finish. I'm heading up there today, going to get some food on, sit back, relax and chat to you guys as always about some of these mysterious things happening in these areas. Kick back guys, relax and enjoy. On my way out of here only yesterday, I never managed to get a video made, but I did find a tree stump that would be great to take back to camp. Now, I used Google Maps to drop a pin, and this will be a great test to see how accurate that is, because the terrain here, everything looks the same underfoot, and you're looking for something the size of a tree stump amongst all this vast area. So let's just use the pin and try and track our way back to this tree stump, and if we find it, I'll then carry it back to camp. It's always handy to have tree stumps at camp, whether it be for chopping wood or just extra seating for people to sit on. So yeah, hopefully it works and I can find my way back to it, because it was the perfect cut. So yeah, let's have a look. So the pin didn't work. I just don't think I saved it correctly. I think I made a list instead of actually saving the pin. Titled it Log for Camp, but when I've gone back on to follow that pin, there's only a list there, so I'm assuming that that's what I've done. Schoolboy error, but kind of got a rough idea of where it was and the way I came back. Can't find Lily again, but I don't really like walking her up here on the lead when she's got all this area to run around on. It's nice to tire her out before I get to camp and then put her on the lead at camp. Oh no, I can see her. She's off in the distance. I can just see her big bushy tail above all the tall grass. What is surprising is there's loads of ground birds nesting at the minute, or not maybe nesting, but hiding out. And they are super brave, because they'll remain silent and still until you're almost on top of them. And then what they choose to do is bolt out of the ground and fly away at incredible speed, so it scares the hell out of you when it happens. And it's amazing because you don't see them. Like, I can be walking, scanning the area out in front of me, and only a few paces ahead there's 2 or 3 birds there lied down in the grass. So they're definitely well adapted to this area and keeping the low profile, which always begs the question, what else is out here that's adapted to keeping a low profile? Don't be fooled by the blue sky either, guys. It's absolutely freezing today. When I was down here yesterday, there was the remnants of snow on the ground. Luckily, the majority of that had started thawing out and melting away, but I can see that in the next few weeks there's going to be a lot more of that coming. And once it happens, it's very difficult to get to this location, because the roads are just impassable in bad snow. So yeah, it is freezing, but it's a beautiful, beautiful winter's day. Lots of coniferous forests and trees out in front of me, blue skies, just a nice crisp winter's chill. That's the only thing, but I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all, to be honest. I actually prefer camping in winter than I do in summer. You don't get as many biting insects. Right, now to try and find the track for this stump. One thing that's very easy to do when you keep frequenting a place is to look down at the floor instead of looking up. So every now and then I just like to look up and look around, because you might see something off in the distance hovering above the tree line, or something trying to make its way through the long grass. you just never know. I know there's going to be people thinking I'm crazy for even saying stuff like that and talking this way, but listen, hundreds of people are seeing these things and reporting them. I was one of them as a child growing up, so I definitely believe there's stuff out here. What that is, what dimension it's living amongst, this one or another one, or maybe all, who really knows? That's kind of why I'm intrigued to get out here. I just want to see something again. I've seen a few things in my life that are really strange and unexplainable. The paranormal has been a big part of my life, but also only this year I saw my first UFO. I've been looking for years, but I've always been able to put a good guess on what it is that I'm looking at. That was until this year, obviously, down at Flamborough Head, when I had an experience with some lights in the sky, very, very close, only a few hundred meters away. In the sky, made absolutely no sound at all, and I couldn't put a finger on what it was. I went through the whole list. Drones, well, it wasn't a drone, there was no sound, and it moved too fast. And it was definitely not a Chinese lantern, because it changed direction and came back on itself after stopping on a dime. It wasn't a commercial airline, because it was 4 solid amber lights all in a line. It wasn't fireworks, obviously. Fireworks blow up, make bangs and die out. This thing was bizarre. It moved incredibly, incredibly fast. Stopped on a postage stamp pretty much and went back the opposite way on itself, and shot out to sea at an incredible rate of speed. No sound, no kind of propulsion system or fumes coming from a propulsion system like exhaust fumes or anything like that. And just to put the icing on the cake, after I'm stood there with my brother, fascinated and baffled by what we're watching, a fighter plane charges after it and this thing vanished out at sea and reappeared above my head. So I think we can rule out a hell of a lot of man-made gadgets or natural phenomena, and that's it. That was my one and only UFO sighting. But it's those little things like that, those incidents that we have, that keep us on the trail for answers, because if it happened once, it's happening all the time. Maybe not to you, maybe not in this country, some other part of the world, but people will be having similar experiences all the time. And I wonder how many of those people just don't even bother to talk about it. Because I know people that have had experiences, and I've asked them, well, what did you do after? Well, I didn't do anything, I went home. Put TV on, went to sleep, and I went to work the next morning. So the response you would expect to get after seeing something so fascinating isn't the same for everybody. And people need to understand that, because a lot of the time genuine stories are brushed under the carpet or laughed away, because the listeners will say stuff like, that seems a bit fake. So you're just telling me you saw this amazing thing and you went home? Well, yeah, that is what happens. People react differently to these things, and not everybody is as fascinated as we are, or has an interest like we do. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Genuine stories can sometimes seem really incredible, but not so incredible to the people that saw it. Yeah. Still looking for this tree stump. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. I don't want to waste too much time trying to find it, because like I said, light doesn't last long here. It's already getting quite dark. Maybe in the next 3 hours I'll be switching over to torchlight if I'm still here by then. I don't plan on being here for dark, because in all honesty I've not charged my lantern or my torches for the last 2 days, so who knows how much life's left in them. I don't want to get caught out here with no lights. So yeah, I'm only going to give this 5 more minutes looking for this tree stump, and then I'm going to get to camp. I think this is it. I think I found it. Perfecto. Now we just have to carry that back a little. As you can see, guys, this bed has become damp, and these logs are a bit damp here. And this bag that I've wrapped up the fleece in has become wet as well, so water is being blown in from the outside. It's certainly not coming from the top. That's fully waterproofed. There's no water getting through there. So yeah, the only thing I can think of is that water is being blown in from the front, which now means that I'm going to have to drop a tarp down from the front of the shelter when I'm not here maybe, or when I'm sleeping over, and weight that down at the bottom to keep it in place, and hopefully that should keep the rain out. It's not too much of a drama, but it's always nice to figure this stuff out early on rather than when you're 2 days into a week camp or something. So I'm glad it's happened now. I can rectify that and prevent it from happening in the future. Luckily for me, what I can do is I can roll out this bivvy bag, which is waterproof, completely dry. I'll put that on the logs, and I can put my dry fleece, which is wrapped up in this tarp, on top, so I can still sit down somewhere dry, and yeah, all is good. I've recently had a lot of people messaging me saying that my videos have somehow inspired them to get out into nature and investigate some of these areas for themselves. Some people have even started up their own YouTube channels, and I can't tell you how happy that makes me feel. A few years ago, when I first started this channel, I would have been more than happy to have received acceptance, as I understand that the topics I talk about are quite controversial. So for people now to say that I'm actually inspiring them to get out and do similar things is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And I think that what this shows is that there are many more people now who are willing to openly talk about these subjects without the fear of being ridiculed or without the fear of being made to feel embarrassed. Myself and other like-minded people here on the channel, we know the truth. We just don't know how to prove it yet. But that time is coming, and I don't believe that it will be from mainstream media or government agencies, but rather from people like myself. People getting out in the open and putting boots on the ground. The first thing I like to do when I get to camp is just take my coat off, because as the temperature drops, if you've got your coat on, your body heat doesn't adjust. It stays at the same temperature, and the temperature keeps dropping and dropping. You become colder and colder. Essentially, your coat doesn't work for you anymore. So I always take my coat off, especially if I know I'm going to be cutting and doing work around the camp, because I'm going to warm up anyway. And as the temperature does drop later on, I can whack that coat on and I will really feel the benefit. So that is something I always like to do. In the army, we call that the layering system. Not just being that mindset to throw every piece of warm clothing that you've got on. Otherwise, it won't work for you in the long run. It's amazing how far sound travels. If you really stand still and just listen, you can hear all sorts of vehicles, animals, machinery. Yeah, it's brilliant here. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's cold. It's cold. I think what I need to do, realistically, is start building some shelves to get my water, dog food, and my food off the floor for when I come back. Because I have been leaving food here, but I don't really want it on the floor. Tins will go rusty and it's just not good. So I need to think about building some kind of shelves. This is the best time of night now. Lily's been fed, the fire's going. I remembered to put the sauce in the correct order. A lot of you guys pulled me up on the last video saying that the sauce goes in after the water, not the water first. So hopefully this time I've got that right. You learn something new every day. But yeah, I love this time of night now. Everything's set up, just chilling out. The fire's going, like I said, and I can really just settle in and relax. This is the time though with building a shelter where it comes to a standstill, because there's so much more that I still need to do. However, the camp now is livable, and so because it's livable, you just tend to find that you come here and instead of working, doing the things you should be doing, you just get comfy, get some food on and make the most of it, which isn't always a good thing because, like I said, nothing gets done. I recently spoke to a lady who had a fascinating story, but unfortunately she wouldn't let me interview her, even if she was to remain anonymous, which I put forward to her as a suggestion. She still said no and declined, so I didn't want to badger her too much and try and force her into telling a story if she didn't want to share it. But she told me the story, and I'm just gutted that I can't get it out there for you guys. Basically, here in the UK, there's a city called Leeds. Now, Leeds is not a place that you would imagine to hear a cryptid story at all. Like, when I envision Leeds, I think of the city Leeds, I think of the football team, the stadium there and things. It's not a place that you would ever imagine something weird could be walking around. However, this lady and 3 of her other friends, one night coming home from another friend's house down a country lane, they saw something running across a field outside the driver's side window, or the driver's side of the car. It was running across a field on all fours. It wasn't a dog or a cat. But as it came closer to the car and the women started freaking out, this thing stood up on 2 feet and started running. And she said to me that this isn't a resemblance of a werewolf. It wasn't, I think it might have been a werewolf. This was a werewolf. Now, I tend to get embarrassed about using that word werewolf, but I spoke to Paul Sinclair recently, and Paul was saying the same. Paul said that, in all honesty, that word needs rebranding because people are reluctant to talk about these things because it means using the word werewolf. And that's quite sad, really, because if there is something out there undiscovered that resembles a werewolf, and that's the only word you've got to use to describe this thing, you can imagine how many genuine stories get laughed at, or how many people get fun poked at them. So just recently, in fact as recent as yesterday actually, I came across one of the most compelling pieces of paranormal footage that I've seen in a long time. And I'm not sure how this has slipped through the net with me, because I've seen so much on the paranormal, like documentaries, series, YouTube channels. I watch a hell of a lot of stuff. Now, it's not my main area of expertise. It frightens the life out of me, as you know. I was brought up in a house that is full of poltergeist activity. So I don't tend to dabble with things like that because I've got enough confirmation as I'll ever need that it exists. But yeah, this piece of footage basically was a family living in America somewhere, and they were living with a poltergeist, and they would ask open questions into the house, etc. Is there anyone there? What's your name? Do you want to leave a message? And then what they would do was snap a Polaroid picture off and wait for the Polaroid image to come through, and lo and behold, this thing was communicating with writing on the image, like white mist or smog of some kind was spelling words out on the image. I don't understand that. That's absolutely mind-bending. And they sent a group of experts in there to try and debunk this, and their aim was to go prove that the film had been tampered with, or someone somewhere was doing something untoward to make this happen. So they bought a brand new pack of film direct from the company of this camera, unsealed, and watched the guy open it. He opened the film, he put it in the camera, they asked a question and shook the film off. A few minutes later, on the back of the image was this writing in response to his question, and it was in Latin. Nobody, even the experts, couldn't understand how that was happening. And the message, I mean, they were even asking the guy to change the questions, and he'd change the questions to what they wanted him to ask, and lo and behold, the correct answer came back on the photo. This is absolutely, for me, that is proof. How is that not proof? The experts even said, listen, we don't know how this is done. It's fascinating, and it definitely needs looking into more. But I've never seen anything like that. But it did make me think, like, would something work like that here? Because if you can get something on Polaroid, you can't really tamper with Polaroid. Not like today's camera phones and high-tech equipment cameras like Nikon and Canon. You can take the footage off them digital cameras back home and manipulate them in certain softwares to add filters and things like that. But with a Polaroid, you're pretty much getting what is there in the moment. There is no way or no time to really manipulate that film. So I'm thinking about buying a cheap Polaroid with a shitload of film and coming out here trying something similar. Now, I might not get nothing, which is likely going to be the case, but I think that would be a great little thing to add into my research. I mean, it's going to cost me nothing, is it? I mean, Polaroid film these days is not too expensive, I don't believe. And I like the idea that you get the image there and then as soon as you've taken the picture. So it would be fascinating if something came back on the back of the photo. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. I mentioned to you guys that moving into 2022, I do want to start doing things out of the box. And trying different things. Some of these things that I'm going to be trying might seem wacky, stupid, and a waste of time, but it's all about just casting that net further afield and trying to do as much as I can in a larger area as possible. And so I'm going to introduce so many weird things to try and capture something on film, audio, physical evidence like hair, footprints. I'm going to be fully kitted up in a few weeks' time, I believe. I'm going to be carrying Pastoral Parish around with me for any possible prints, game cameras. I mean, all these things I don't truly 100% believe in. But like I've said, the more that I've got in my toolbox, the better it's going to be for me. Now, there has been a few of you that have recently sent me stories into the 401 Files email account, which is 401files@gmail.com. I always love hearing your stories and your experiences. Sometimes they're not even your own personal stories, it's from a friend of a friend. But I love reading them, and I will get back to posting some of these accounts and sharing them with the audience here on the channel, guys. So please don't be offended if you've sent me a story in and I've not got around to reading it out yet. I've just been really busy with the camp, trying to get this built, and obviously working on the documentary whenever I get a spare 5 minutes. So I've been pretty snowed under at the minute with filming and trying to keep the regular posts coming, which are doing really well. I never thought these longer videos would do really well, because I just thought it's going to be me waffling, talking a lot of crap. But you guys seem to really enjoy it, and as long as you're enjoying it, I'm happy. So I'll continue to make these longer videos here at the Bushcraft base, the UFO hub, the Cryptid camp, whatever you guys are referring to this place as. I'll continue to make these videos here for you. You know, like something I've been recently watching on YouTube, and I never typed this in. This just came in my recommended. You know how it is when you watch one thing, something similar will pop up. Well, recently, near-death experiences where people have come back with amazing stories to tell of the afterlife have been popping up in my suggested column. So I've been watching a few of them, but they always depress me a little bit. And I'll tell you why they depress me. It's because, let's just say that their account of what happened is genuine. These people left this place, went on to a heaven or a hell, and in a lot of these cases, these people talk about a life review where they have to look back at their life and everything all of a sudden makes sense, and it makes me depressed. Or, well, not depressed, but it gives me a weird feeling, because I often think, will I be punished? I'm not necessarily religious. I don't believe there is or there isn't. If anything, I would say that I'm agnostic. I don't know what to believe when it comes to a heaven or a hell. But it does make me think, if there is a heaven and we do go through this life review process, will I be judged because I'm talking about things that go against religion? You see, I'd hate to think that I'm going to be punished or looked upon as someone who's a bad person for talking about cryptids and other things that basically contradict the Bible. because in a lot of these cases, in the stories where they do appear in the Bible, they're always described as demonic. And if I'm spending all my time talking about demonic things, that's a fighter plane. I wondered what that was for a second. Yeah, if I'm spending most of my time talking about demonic things, which is what the Bible describes cryptids as, and UFOs, extraterrestrials, does that make me a bad person? Does that make me, in God's eyes, someone who's gone against him? And I don't know. It's just a weird thought, because like I've said, I'm not even religious, so I don't know why I would be thinking like that. But those kind of videos, these near-death experiences and afterlife accounts, that's how they tend to make me feel like I'm a bad person for talking about the alternatives. Yeah, I don't know. So by the time you guys are watching this, you will have no doubt realised that the talk with me and Paul Sinclair hasn't been released yet. And that is all my fault, because I've never really used Skype before. And we was using Skype, and in the top left hand corner it was saying video recording. But after the chat ended, after the call ended, there was no video there. And I've waited thinking that because it was a large file, maybe it's taken a bit of time to process, but nothing's come through. So the whole conversation for 1 hour and 40 minutes didn't record, which, as you can imagine, for me was highly embarrassing. Talking to someone like Paul Sinclair, who's well renowned here in the UK, and having to say, look, Paul, it didn't record, my fault. But you know, that guy's awesome. And I don't mean to blow smoke up his ass, but he really is, because he was just like, yeah, no, that's fine, Ben. If it's messed up, we'll do it again. You know, and I think that that's really, really good, and says a lot about Paul, his character, to be that way. Because he could have been pissed off. I mean, he's a busy guy. He's taking time out of his day. But yeah, no, he's a great guy, and he's always taking time for me and stuff. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Paul Sinclair, and I'm talking to the American audience here, because I'm sure that a lot of the people here in the UK really know who Paul is, especially if you're into these phenomena. I highly, highly recommend you look into buying his books, Truth Proof. He does a series of books called the Truth Proof books. He's bringing his recent one out soon, which is Truth Proof 4. And yeah, he's just a great guy, and he's one of those people that I feel are at my level. Sometimes when you get in conversations with people in this field, they use a lot of jargon and it goes over your head. Well, Paul is like really approachable, and he puts things in a way that I can relate to and understand. He speaks my language, basically. So yeah, we are going to redo that talk, because a lot of interesting things came out, and creepy things as well. He's full of stories, full of knowledge on the cryptid things here in the UK and the UFO sightings. And the beautiful thing about Paul is that he doesn't claim to know the answers. A lot of these people that have lots of stories to tell and share claim they know everything, and he's not one of those people. So yeah, we will get around to doing it again. I'm really sorry that you guys haven't seen that yet, but like I said, by the time you're watching this, you'll understand why. I'm not sure what happened. Skype let me down massively, but on the upside, we can do it again. So anyone that's interested in the documentary that I'm making, things are going really, really well. I got over a massive hurdle recently, because this happens in art, it happens with music making, and it's called a creative block. Like, you just get to a point where you think, I don't know where this is going, I don't know how to get past this point and move on to the next stage, and it's difficult to overcome that. I've mentioned a few times now that for about 3 weeks I was just stuck on this one stupid part, and it wasn't even necessarily difficult. It's just that everything I put in after that led me down a different direction and made me question where the documentary was going. But I seem to have got over that now. It's transitioned nicely into a part that I want to talk about, which is Bempton, and hopefully from there I can then transition into another part of the UK, which is a hotspot, likely to be here in the Moors, and then a few other places as well. But yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get to a point when you're making a documentary or a video and you just think, shit, like, what should I put after this bit, because anything else doesn't make sense. Well, now thankfully I've got over that, and it's moving again now. So I need to get out to Bempton. I need to get out to Bempton and do maybe a 4-night camp there, and investigate some of these things that are happening, because that is an area of high strangeness. Multi-phenomena, as Paul calls it, Paul Sinclair. Things happening in different areas. Lights being seen in the sky, cryptids being seen running across the ground, mysterious lights appearing out of thin air. There's just a whole host of weird and strange things that are too much of a coincidence to be happening side by side. And when we add the cattle mutilations to that mix, because they happen in that area as well, it really does become like an area of its own with very high strangeness going on. So I need to get out there for about 4 days, take as many batteries and cameras as I can, and camp out, talk to you guys, and try and absorb the experience of Bempton. I've been thinking about how I'm going to do it, and should I take the bivvy tent? Should I take should I take the bivvy? Should I take the tent? And I keep having this really intrusive thought. And the thought is that, and this is a bit weird and it's going to be dark, but because Bempton has sheer cliffs, like 400 foot plus cliffs, and people do go missing there, it keeps giving me this intrusive thought that when I go there, I'll pitch up well away from the cliffs, obviously, well away. But I always think, like, what happens if something dragged me to the cliffs and made it look like a suicide? And I know that's dark, it's an intrusive thought, but yeah, like, how do we know that there isn't a force at play there doing this to people, and playing on the fact that it is an area of high strangeness, knowing that people will say, oh yeah, well, this person fell off the cliff by accident, this person did that, and it was just a tragic accident, when really there was something else at play. Now I'm just stabbing in the dark here really with this, but it was an intrusive thought that I started thinking while driving the car the other day. I was thinking, shit, what if I go there and I sleep in the bivvy, and through the night I'm being dragged across the floor towards the cliff face, and in the papers the next morning and everyone else is talking about how this guy has been found. You know, I just went down a rabbit hole with it. It was dark as anything, but yeah, I don't know why I thought that. So if I do go missing, guys, while I'm at Bempton, please be assured that I did camp away from the cliffs, and there was no way that I could roll off the edge from where I camp. I'll make that very clear right now. So yeah, and I have no intentions of jumping off the cliff as well. Just an intrusive thought that I had, and scared me a little bit, because I'm going to lose sleep now. I'm going to be sleeping in the bivvy at Bempton with one eye open, just in case some kind of a force or entity starts to pull me across the floor to the cliff face. Oh, that's creepy. Would be the perfect crime, because everybody would just chalk that down to suicide or a tragic accident. I don't care how brave you are. I don't care if you believe, you don't believe, or anything like that. If you see something running across the ground on 2 feet, other than a human, in the woods, an area that's not very populated with human activity, you're gonna freak. You are gonna freak out. There must be like a few moments of, what the hell is that? Like, what is that a man? Is that a woman? What is that, a dog? And then all of a sudden, that moment of shit. Like when you start realising what you're seeing in front of your eyes, that must be a horrible feeling. And what I'm talking about now is I'm just trying to cherry pick at some of these stories that people have had here in the UK, because there is a lot of them where people describe this creature, dogman, wolf, whatever it may be, running on 2 feet. And I know that that's big news in the US. A lot of people talk about dogmen sightings and werewolf sightings in the US, but here in the UK, it's practically our history. You go right back through some of our historical records and books, claims and stories, reports of these bipedal dogs running on 2 feet. They go right back through the ages. And it far outdates things like extraterrestrials and UFOs. I mean, they're big news for me. That's what I really like to get my teeth into, is the UFO side of things. But yeah, you look at the werewolf side of things and dogman side of things here in the UK, it goes beyond folklore and mythology. It's written down hundreds, if not thousands of years into our past. Now, a lot of people, once they hear that something is involved in our past and being talked about in the past, feel like that adds more credibility. I'm not sure whether it does or it doesn't, or if it was just people misunderstanding what they saw at the time. I've just seen a red light. Just seen a red light come through the tall grass, which is concerning because there isn't a road in that direction. And now I can hear the talking again. Stop now, I can't hear it. The talking here is creepy as anything. I mean, listen now, there's no wind. For any of you guys that have watched the previous video, if you go right back through my videos, you'll see there was one where I abandoned a camp through the night in this exact location. I was camping out here in my tent and heard a conversation taking place that was so realistic and so vivid that I actually packed up in the middle of the night and got the hell out of here. And a lot of people chalk that down to being wind, but you can hear now there's no wind. It's deadly silent. What are the voices all about? Is that paranormal? Did something happen here years and years ago? Now I know there's a lot of burial mounds, like there's over 250 burial mounds and more to be discovered still, they say. Every walk of life has been through this place, and some huge battles, skirmishes, took place on the moors. So there's been a lot of bloodshed, a lot of suicides, a lot of people going missing. And I just wonder if those voices do have anything to do with that. You know, a lot of the time people that are involved in the paranormal talk about these replays, a time in history that's been frozen and keeps replaying itself every now and then throughout history. I can't hear them now. They've been stopped for about 10 minutes now. I'm not seeing no more light, so I don't want to start freaking myself out, but it looked like a bike light. You know, like when you see a push bike and it's got the little red light at the back, tiny little red light. I saw it really quickly just through the long grass in front of me, through the trees. It opens out into like a long grassed area. And then shortly after I heard what sounded like the voices again, so it's getting very dark here now. And yeah, it's almost pitch black, to be honest. I'm going to need the torch on my way out. And I'm a bit freaked out now. So I've lost my train of thought. So I'm sorry guys, I don't know what I was talking to you about there before I saw that. I can't remember what it was. This is the times, you see, when you start freaking out, when you're on your own and you do this, and it's all fun and games making a YouTube video for like-minded people. But this is the stuff that comes with it, sitting in the forest on your own. Sub-zero temperatures, it's below freezing at the minute. And then something might happen, like, you know, I've been lucky so far that not a lot has happened to me. I've seen some strange things that I've reported, and I've had some really weird things that I felt were weird happen to me. Some of them can be explainable, I'm sure, but there's always that chance you're going to come to these areas one day and it'd be different to all the rest. It takes you off guard and changes your life forever. Because I've always said this, those people that have the experiences, don't go looking for them. Like they're not all like me. They don't all come here with a camera and equipped with audio equipment and stuff in the hopes of seeing or hearing anything, but one day they're out mountain biking or horse riding and they see something. That is the risk in the game that I play. That is always a possibility that I could be that person one day that comes out and does see something. I'm really like my own worst enemy sometimes, because sometimes on the drive down here I'll listen to the Missing 411, David Paulides, and I'll listen to like Sasquatch Chronicles and other related podcasts that have guests on talking about the things here in the UK. I mean, the last time I heard David Paulides talking, he was saying that it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just in Yosemite or the US. In fact, I think the UK was like second or third country in the world for missing reports of people. And after listening to stuff like that in the car on the way down here, you can't help but have that playing in the back of your mind while you're trying to do other things. There is always that chance that you could end up on that list. And I know that sounds unlikely, but as I've just mentioned, I'm sure the people that went missing thought that as well. You know, I'm really liking this side part here that I put up, where I've got like 4 lengths of wood stood up at the side. I might add a photo now so you guys can see what I'm referencing. But the downside to that is, when you're sat inside the shelter, I've got this horrible feeling, and I know it's just my mind playing games, I know that, but I've got this horrible feeling that someone's either stood around the other side listening to me, or about to spring round and go, "Rah!" scare me. I don't know why the mind plays so many stupid games like that. Every now and then it's always really good just to reset, because your levels of intensity and your heightened awareness can get so far out of reach that one thing becomes a big thing becomes a massive thing, and before you know it, a satellite is a fully fledged mothership. So I always, when I get freaked out, like to reset, come back down, chill, think about something different, and then start again. Because if we allow our emotions and fear factor to take over us, it can definitely manipulate what we're seeing and what we think we've heard. And yeah, but it's difficult. It's difficult to do that. I'm not saying that's easy. You've got to look at where I am. The minute you hear something or you see something, it's the natural human instinct to go straight into survival mode, panic mode. But if you can, just try to bring it back down a little bit and chill. I'm going to try something now. And I did this on a previous video. I don't know why I did this. I used to do it as a kid when I lived in the haunted house, and it would often give me replies back, which always sent me flying off the sofa and leaving the house, which looking back now makes no sense. Why would you ask a question to get a response and then freak out? But I was just a kid at the time. So I'm going to do it again and see what happens. I'm going to leave the camera rolling. You guys will see there is no cuts in this footage. If there's anybody out there in this forest right now with me that wishes to give me a sign, then please use this time to do that. Maybe move something, give me 2 knocks, or a noise that's out of the ordinary, one that we've not heard. If there's anybody out there in this forest right now with me that wishes to communicate, give me a sign of some sort, please move something, give me a sound that's different to the ones we've already heard, or even just 2 knocks. Right, okay, so if anything did show up then, it's obviously been picked up by the camera and not me, because I didn't hear anything. But I like to do that every now and then. I don't really get that many results here, to be honest. But who knows, maybe one day I'll do that and be saying something completely different. I'm going to start wrapping up now, guys. I'm going to start packing my stuff away and call it a night. Like I've said, it is pitch black out there in front of me now, and I've got this little side light on just so you guys can see me. That's what's highlighting my face at the minute. But wish me luck getting back to the car, and I'll be back again real soon. You guys have been awesome, as always. Always really nice to chat to like-minded people where I know that there is no ridicule, there is no judgment cast in this direction. Not from you, not from me. So this is a happy place, guys, for anyone that is like-minded, anyone that does believe there is more to this world and this existence than just us flesh and bones creatures walking on 2 feet. If you believe there is more, whether it be life after death, whether it be strange cryptids entering from different dimensions, whatever it may be, whatever you believe, this is a safe zone, guys, where you will not be judged on your beliefs, believe me, because I have some really wacky, far out there thoughts and opinions on certain things. And that's all they are, is thoughts and opinions. But once I put them out there to other people and realise that you guys are thinking the same as well, it makes it much more of a safe zone, a better place for me to release stuff that's going on in here. So anyway, it's getting cold, and you guys have been awesome, like I've said, wherever you are in the world watching this. Thank you so much, I really do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed these talks, please give this one a thumbs up, drop down in the comments box below, subscribe if you haven't already, because those subscription numbers, guys, are going up through the roof, which is really nice now. It's starting to pick up. Like I've said, guys, look after yourselves, and if you are in a position to do so, then please do look after somebody else as well. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next one.